What is the source of a guru's authority? He can tell you that he can speak from experience, that he has experienced states of consciousness which have made him profoundly blissful, or understanding, or compassionate, or whatever it may be. And you have his word for it. And you have the word of other people who likewise agree with him. But each one of them, and you in turn, agree with him out of your own opinion and by your own judgment. And so it is you that are the source of the teacher's authority. And that is true whether he speaks as an individual or whether he speaks as the representative of a tradition or a church. You may say that you take the Bible as your authority, or the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic following very often says that the individual mystical experience is not to be trusted because of its liability to be interpreted in a whimsical and purely personal way, and that it has to be guarded against excesses by the substantial and objective traditions of the Church. But those traditions are held to be substantial and objective only because those who follow believe it to be so. They say so. And if you follow it, you say so. So the question comes back to you. Why do you believe? Why do you form this opinion? Upon what basis does all this rest? Now you may say, I need some help in this process, and therefore I am going to find someone else to help me. It may be a therapist. It may be a clergyman. It may be a guru. It may be any kind of person who teaches a technique of self-improvement. How will you know whether this person is able to teach you? How can you judge, for example, whether a psychotherapist is effective or just a charlatan? How can you judge whether a guru is himself spiritually wise or merely a good chatterbox? Well, of course, you ask your friends, you ask his other students or patients, and they're all, of course, enthusiastic. You have to be enthusiastic when you bought something expensive. If you bought an automobile which turned out to be a lemon, it's very difficult to admit that it was a lemon and that you were fooled. And it's the same when you buy a religion or an expensive operation. But what people do not sufficiently realize is that when you pick an authority, whether it's a psychotherapeutic one or a religious one, you chose it. In other words, that this fellow or this book or this system is the right one is your opinion. And how are you competent to judge? After all, if you're saying to this other person or other source, I think you are the authority, that's your opinion. So you cannot really judge whether an authority is a sound authority unless you yourself are a sound authority. Otherwise you may just be being fooled. You may say, for example, I believe that the Bible is the Word of God. All right, that's your opinion. I know the Bible says it's the Word of God, but it's your opinion that the Bible is not lying. The Church says the Bible is the Word of God, but it's your opinion that the Church is right. You cannot escape from that situation. It's your opinion. So you see, when you select an authority who will help you to improve yourself, it's like hiring the police out of your tax money and putting them in charge of seeing that you obey the law. I mean, can't you take care of yourselves? I mean, is this the land of the free and the home of the brave, or isn't it? But you see, nobody seems to want to be in charge of themselves because they feel they can't do it. As St. Paul said, to will is present with me, but how to do good I find not. For the good that I would I do not, and the evil that I would not that I do. There at once we are in difficulty, because trying to improve yourself is like trying to lift yourself up into the air by tugging at your own bootstraps. And it can't be done. There are all sorts of ways in which religious people try to explain that it can be done. I referred already to the grace of God. They say, no, you can't do the job yourself, because the improving you is the one that needs to be improved. Therefore you have to say, God help me. Now, of course, that God exists is your opinion. That God will answer your prayer is your opinion. And your idea of God is your idea of God. If you bought somebody else's script, you bought it. Maybe your mother and father talked to you about God in a very impressive way. But basically, you bought their idea. And if you're a father yourself, I'm a grandfather now, I've got 5 grandchildren. And I know I'm as stupid as my own grandfather must have been. You know, I am one. I sit there in the position which they look at, think, oh, wowee, that's an important man. I know that. I'm just like anyone else. I hope my children are not believing things on my authority, because it's always their authority. If I look impressive and make big noises at them, they've just been taken in.
You must realize that when you give spiritual authority and other kinds of authority to another person, that you are allowing him to pick your pocket and sell you your own watch. Because how do you know of any great teacher or scripture or whatever that they know what they say they know? Why do you believe in a religion? How do you know? Why do you believe, say, in the Bible? You can't believe it just because the Bible says it's true. Why do you believe it has the authority to say it's true? Oh, well, your fathers and mothers and all sorts of amazing people believed it, and therefore you buy their authority. Curiously, though, you would say, how did they know it was true? Did they, by their life and example, show that they were enormously improved because of their belief? And if you look at human history with a clear eye, you will see that people have not improved very much, despite their religions and their Bible. So when you set up an authority, never forget the belief that you have in this authority is your opinion. And when de Tocqueville said a people gets what government it deserves, he was quite right. Because we allow the government, whether it be political or spiritual, to get away with it. And so it rests on our authority. And this is true also of God. If you believe in God, that God is good, that God is God at all, is your opinion. And so God derives from you. And therefore this thought has some very peculiar implications with regard to the government of the universe. It may imply democracy in the kingdom of heaven. That, of course, does not overthrow God, except in the sense of a certain kind of God. So, but whatever it is, it always goes back to you. And it's like when that great Hindu sage, Sri Ramana Maharshi, would be approached by his disciples, and they would say, Guruji, who was I in my last incarnation? And he would answer, who wants to know? Guruji, how does one attain liberation? And he would answer, who is it that wants to attain it? Who is asking the question? Because it always gets back to you, where it all begins. What's that? And of course, we all say, who, me? Because we think we know who we are. We've been told, and we bought the story. You can't really blame anybody else for what you think of yourself. You can't, in a sort of psychoanalytical way, go back and find the causation for what you are now in the behavior of your parents, or your peer group, or whatever it was when you were a child. Because the universe doesn't work that way. It works the other way. It goes backwards from you. You started, always. You always started it. And when you blame somebody else for putting you into the situation where you are, it merely means that you defined yourself incorrectly. You've defined yourself, say, as limited to your conscious attention and your voluntary musculature. But is that all? Is that the real you? Upon what does consciousness rest? Consciousness does not illumine the lamp from which it shines, just as the headlight of a car doesn't shine on the engine. And when you make a decision, does that come from somewhere other than you? No. It comes from the depths of you, of which we are not really aware. You include far more than anything you know about in a conscious way. But we are so used to thinking that I am simply the center of consciousness and the center of willing, that we are ignorant or ignorant of most of ourselves. When you think of a person, what do you think of? I mean, a particular person. Supposing I say, Oh, think of your uncle, or think of your mother. What instantly comes to mind is rule, isn't it, the face? Because we're used to photographs in newspapers. If we see the president, it's the president's face, maybe down to the head and shoulders. Sometimes the whole body is seen, but mostly it's the face. What do you think of when you think of a flower? In the same way, you think mostly of the blossom. Sometimes the stalk, sometimes the whole plant. But very rarely is it that when we think of a flower, we think of the flower in a field. Because we say that's more than the flower. The flower is not the field. Is that so? Where would it be without it? I can say in words, the flower grows in the field. In words, I can chop the field off and say the flower grows, and the sentence still makes sense. But it wouldn't make sense in nature. If I took the field away from the flower wouldn't grow. So you see, the flower is connected with the field in a very deep way. And so in the same way, a person is not just the head. The head has to go with the body, and the body has to go with the social and natural environment. But we never think of that. We know it's there, but automatically that doesn't come to mind. So who are you that decides? Who are you that gives authority to somebody else? And pretend, oh, it doesn't come from me.